tonight, tomorrow, Yud Aleph Nisan. Tonight begins Rebbe's birthday, 120 years, culminating tomorrow. Wow. Special. We begin chapter 41. Chapter 41, one word, Avodah, service. Starting a new section. We've been speaking about intent, about love and awe, wings that make our actions in what we do in divine service ascend to the divine attributes on high, that gives it a connection to God Himself in a manner that illuminates our actions. An illuminated mitzvah has an eternity to it, and much that we spoke about. Now we're going to, in the next about 10 or so chapters, deal into different types of love and awe, fear, reverence of God, and how we can implement them into our lives, and the uniqueness in each and every single one. So, Alter Rebbe begins this new section saying, one must, however, constantly bear in mind what the beginning of divine service, as well as the core and the root of it is. Although generally we speak about reverence of God as the root from turning away from doing evil, from doing negative, wrong things, and love is the root of doing good, right? Fear holds you back. Refrain. Love, you want to bond to do good. That's generally. Nevertheless, it's not sufficient to have just a love of God in order to do good for God. Not sufficient. At the very least, before performing a positive commandment, doing good, you need to arouse first the innate meaning hidden in our heart, part of our soul, that the Jew doesn't want to rebel against the Supreme King, God, King of Kings. And this reverence or fear, or whatever you want to call it, should manifest itself in the heart if possible, or at least in the mind, intellectual reverence, meaning that we're mindful minimally. And what should you contemplate? What should the mind have an awareness of? The greatness of God as King, meaning that His kingship, His rulership, His control is over all the worlds, not just the spiritual worlds above, but this physical world down here. That itself, brings a sense of awe of the great vastness of His empire, as it were, as King. And further then consider, in other words, to be mindful of how God fills the world, animates it from within, meaning that we can comprehend an awareness of God from within the world and experience that because it's of the world, in the world. And at the same time, another thing to contemplate is that God is not limited to being immanent within the world, and therefore we can comprehend and experience that of God, but that God is at the same time all-encompassing, all of the worlds, meaning He transcends the world, which means He transcends our intelligence, our capability of even experiencing Him beyond that. So that, contemplate that, think about that, right? God controls everything. He creates everything from within and from beyond. The reality of everything in creation. That's pretty awesome. Yet, continues the Alter Rebbe, he puts that all aside. In other words, all of the higher creatures, angels that we've been speaking about, puts that all aside, the higher worlds, and also, created things of this world, puts it all aside. In other words, that's not important to him, that he is the creator of all, right? In other words, he's not doing it for that, to be the creator of inanimate vegetation, animal. But he uniquely wants to be a king over his people, the Jewish people. Not king for a day, right? But a king. That's in general, as God is known as Melech Yisrael, the king of Israel, of the Jewish people. But furthermore, the Alter Rebbe says that collectively as the Jewish people, he should be king over the Jewish people, but also over me in particular. Why me in particular, not part of a greater whole? Because, as the sages in the Talmud teach us, that I need to say that the world was created for my sake. The world God created for my sake. What will be the result of this contemplation, this meditation, this thought process, right? Again, that God is creator, but he puts that all aside, and what does God want? He wants to be the king over the Jewish people collectively and me individually. Me, myself, and I. He wants to be king over. So what would be but then my response to all of that contemplation, all of that thought, all of that mindfulness? That we accept God as king upon myself individually, and that I will serve him and do his will with all kinds of servile work. In other words, work that God wants, whatever it is. You want me to put on tefillin? Okay, put on tefillin. You want me to pray? I'll pray. You want me to study Torah? I'll study Torah. You want me to, whatever it is, as a servant serves his master. Powerful.